This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Different types of drugs we're discussing. The first one, which is antacid, that we have already finished. Today we'll start with the second one, which is antihistamine. That the name is given antihistamine. So as the name is suggesting antihistamine, that means first we have to know what is histamine. Okay. So the drug which block histamine release from a particular receptor. Which receptor? Is histamine 1 receptor. Histamine may have different types of receptor, but when we are talking about antihistamine, we have to focus on histamine 1 receptor. Okay, so histamine, this substance, it is basically chemical messenger which is interacting with histamine 1 receptor. But now when the drug is coming into picture, it will block this release of this particular chemical messenger from histamine 1 receptor. So that is the name of this receptor. Okay, and you can also say it is as if inhibiting the receptor. Fine. And when it is doing so, during an allergic reaction, and that is why the name is of this type of drugs, the name is antihistamine. Now histamine is a chemical substance which is released by our body, and it causes hypersensitivity, which is another way we can say it is nothing but allergy to some people when they are they are facing these dust, pollen grains, fabric, etc. Fine. And not just this role, histamine is also a potent vasodilator. Now what is vasodilator? Its role as a vasodilator is to contract with the smooth muscles in the bronchi, which is present in lung and gut, and it relaxes other muscles such as those present in the walls of fine blood vessel. Okay, so that is why you can also call it as if it is a vasodilator. So these are the roles of histamine, though we have also seen the role of histamine in when we have discussed antacid. Fine, but that role is different. It may have different types of role depending on what type of receptor it is interacting. Okay, so right now we are talking about histamine, but not the same thing which we have seen in case of antacid. There it is controlling the HCl secretion in the stomach, but now we are talking about allergic reaction and as a vasodilator, which is related to histamine 1. If we are thinking about the role in case of HCl secretion in stomach, then it will be histamine 2 receptor, not 1. That is different receptor. Now we will see the examples. They are widely used for the treatment of hay fever, conjunctivitis, seasonal gingivitis. So all these are basically because of that is consequence of this allergic reaction. Fine. So here we have the name of the drugs that are antihistamine. You can see these are the name. Structure we'll also see after this slide. Terfenadine, which is also known as Seldan. Okay, so there are two different names may be present, so that is why the alternative names are also given within bracket. Then cetirizine, promethazine, etc. Fine. Now, as I have said, that these drugs that you are seeing here as example, that is the above mentioned drugs, they do not affect the secretion of acid in stomach. Okay. Now, why it is so? Because these drugs, it is mainly for, they are basically anti-allergic drug. They are not antacid. Fine. So remember, anti-allergic drugs, that is these drugs, the name that you are seeing here, and the antacid drugs, they work on different receptor. So it is completely different receptor, though this histamine, this particular chemical messenger, it has role in case of acid secretion as well as here that we are seeing. Fine, but don't be confused between these two. It depends on what type of receptor it is interacting. So in this case, receptor is histamine 1, which is for this allergic reaction, but when it is secretion of acid in stomach, then it is different receptor, which is histamine 2. So these are the structures of those drugs that are mentioned in the previous slide as an example of antihistamine. So question related to structures are there, so that is why it is important to know what are the structures. At least some basic idea about the structures. Okay, for example, if I consider this particular molecule brompheniramine, then you will see there is a pyridine ring present. So if you can remember some of this information about the structure, it will help you to answer the question. Okay. So here we have a question. The mechanism of the action of terfenadine, which is also known as Seldan. Okay. So this particular molecule we have seen as example, that is this one. It is also known as Seldan, but the question is not related to structure. The question is related to receptor. So see, it is asking that it activates the histamine receptor, but it is actually blocking the role of histamine. Fine. So that is why we cannot see it is activating. It is actually opposite. So this is not correct. It is not possible. Inhibit the secretion of histamine. Now it is not directly inhibiting the secretion of histamine. It is actually inhibiting the action of the histamine receptor. That means, remember in the previous slide, here it is mentioned histamine 1 receptor. So they are not directly controlling histamine, but they are controlling the histamine 1 receptor, because histamine as chemical messenger, it is interacting with histamine 1 receptor. And the role of the drug is to block this receptor with which histamine is interacting. So it is not directly controlling histamine. Okay. So that is why for this particular problem, we cannot say it is inhibiting the secretion of histamine, but it is inhibiting the action of histamine receptor. So this should be the correct option. And the last one, it is saying that helps in the secretion of histamine, but obviously these two you can easily cancel. But if you are confused between 2 and 3, it is actually 3. The next type, number 3, is analgesic. Now analgesics, they reduce or remove. So either reduce or remove pain, but they are not causing any damage to the that is our consciousness or any type of mental confusion or paralysis or some other disturbance that are related to nervous system. Now these analgesics, they their role is mainly to remove or completely remove or decreasing the amount of pain that we are feeling. Okay. So under this we have two types. The first one is non-narcotic or non-addictive. So if you take this type of drugs, there is no addiction problem. Aspirin and paracetamol, these are the most important example under this category. Now aspirin inhibits the synthesis of compounds that are known as prostaglandin. Now this substance, it stimulates inflammation in the tissue and it causes pain. So this is a hormone, and aspirin, that is the drug, it is inhibiting the synthesis of this substance, and this substance is responsible for this inflammation in the tissue or pain. But if aspirin is inhibiting this, that means ultimately it is removing or reducing pain. These drugs are quite effective in relieving skeletal pain, such as which is arise because of arthritis. Fine. Now these drugs, aspirin, paracetamol, they also have some other kind of role which is not analgesic, but still this point is mentioned here. So what is that role? It is the role which is reducing the temperature, that is reducing fever, and that is why it has another name, antipyretic. But antipyretic, that is completely a different category which we will discuss separately, not here. But remember, these particular two drugs, that is aspirin and paracetamol, they can be analgesic as well as they can be antipyretic. Okay, both are possible. Now because of this action, which is the second one, preventing blood coagulation, because of this particular action, aspirin finds use in prevention of heart attack also. Okay. Now the second type, which is now narcotic or addictive. So under this category, which is number 2, drugs which when administered in small doses, they relieve pain and produces sleep, and they are called narcotics. Fine. However, if we take that is in large dose, then there is a chance of laziness or coma, convulsion, and sometimes if it is very high amount, death is also possible. Okay. So that is why uh, this should be used in a small dose only. Most of these are called opiates. The reason is because they are obtained from the opium poppy. So because of this source, name of the source, their name is opiates. Examples are morphine, codeine, heroin. We will see the pictures of non-narcotic as well as narcotic. So here we have paracetamol and aspirin. So in both cases we have benzene ring, and here we have NHCOCH3 group and OH group at 1 and 4 position. So this is very simple structure, and in case of aspirin at ortho position we have OCOCH3 group, that is ester group, and another is carboxylic acid. Now we will see the examples of narcotic. Morphine, codeine, heroin. If you look at these three molecules, their basic structure is basically same. Fine. But what is the difference? The difference you can find only in the highlighted part. So when it is morphine, it is having only OH in this position. When it is codeine, now OH is ONA. Otherwise, there is no difference. And when it is heroin, now this OH group, that is, just compare with morphine. In morphine, we have two OH group, but now these two OH group, they are methyl ester form. So now the group is changed. So these are the only parts where there is some change. Otherwise, in these three molecules, in the basic structure, you will not find any difference. Okay. We have a question. The function of antihistamines are. Antihistamine we have discussed. The first, that is the second. In today's class, it is first, but actually it is the second time. Anti-allergic and analgesic. Then anti-acid and anti-allergic. Anti-allergic, antidepressant. This part we have not yet discussed. Then analgesic and antacid. So anti-allergic, analgesic. Analgesic is basically all these two types that we have just finished discussed. Non-narcotic, narcotic, that is codeine, morphine, then paracetamol. These are actually analgesic, which is used to remove or reduce pain. And anti-allergic, which is used for reducing allergy. So antihistamine is basically anti-allergic, but it is not analgesic. So this cannot be correct. Then in other options where anti-allergic is present is option B and option C. Now in option D, there is no mention of anti-allergic, but analgesic is there. But this is related to pain, which has nothing to do with antihistamine. So this is not correct. But antihistamine, it has also role in antacid. Fine, because remember, histamine, this particular chemical messenger, it can interact with two different types of receptor, receptor 1 and 2. So when it is receptor 1, then it is playing the role of anti-allergic. When it is receptor 2, then it will be under antacid. Basically, histamine is when it is reacting with the receptor that is responsible for ACL secretion, or in this case, it is actually opposite of this allergy. Just look at this, what I am trying to say. This is the first slide of today's class. So what it is mentioned that histamine is a chemical substance released by your body which causes allergy. That means it is responsible for allergy. So the drug is antihistamine because it is reducing this allergy formation. How it is reducing? By blocking the receptor with which histamine is working. But that is related to histamine 1. Now if we look at this question, this should be correct. Why? Because it is related to antacid as well as it is related to allergy. But the other two names that are mentioned, that is analgesic and antidepressant, these two are not correct. Okay. So it has dual role basically. Next question, the structure shown below is of which well-known drug molecule? So see, this question is related to drug molecule. Fine. Here we have option ranitidine, Seldan, cimetidine, and codeine. Now codeine we have just seen as example, that is in the previous slide only. This is codeine, which is under analgesic, which is also a narcotic, that is addictive. So this is analgesic. This structure, if you see, it is obviously not the structure of codeine. Now we have cimetidine, Seldan, and ranitidine. Seldan, this structure also we have seen in today's class. So this terfenadine, which is actually Seldan. Fine. So this is also not the structure, but we have two other options, which is ranitidine and cimetidine. Now under these two, this is the correct option. Okay. And if we see the structure of cimetidine, this is actually present in the previous class that we have discussed, which is antacid. Fine. So in antacid, you will see here we have this structure, ranitidine and cimetidine under antacid. So in cimetidine, you can see here we have this pyrazole type of ring, but in ranitidine we have furan ring. So these two molecules, it is difficult to remember the whole structure, but try to remember at least the basic ring or heterocycle or benzene ring, anything is present or not. Fine. So in this case, that is in case of cimetidine, it is pyrazole, but ranitidine, the heterocycle is furan. So that is why this is not the correct option. Next category, tranquilizer. Number 4. They are chemical compounds which are very useful in the treatment of stress and mild or severe mental disease. And as the name suggests, tranquilizer, they obviously it will help to soothe the nerve. Fine. So they are of many types depending on the basic structure. We will see different 2 to 3 categories, and in each category you will find some similarity in the basic structure. Tranquilizer, they can be many types and they work by different mechanism also. So here we will see the type. If the level of noradrenaline, which is another type of chemical messenger, or you can say neurotransmitter, and this noradrenaline, this chemical messenger, it is having a role in mood change in the body. Fine. So if this neurotransmitter, its amount is somehow low in body for some reason, there may be different reasons, then what will happen? The signal sending process, it will become slow and the person will suffer from depression. In such cases, antidepressant drugs can be used which inhibit this enzyme catalyzing the degradation of noradrenaline. So there is a specific enzyme which can inhibit, that is, sorry, I'm trying to say there is a particular enzyme which can catalyze the degradation of the neurotransmitter noradrenaline. That means in this way its amount will be low, but if its amount will be low, then there will be problem in signal sending. As a result, there may be chance of depression. Now when we will take this particular type of drug, which is also known as antidepressant, what they will do, they will inhibit this enzyme so that this enzyme now it is not able to catalyze the degradation of noradrenaline. That means now noradrenaline, its amount is not low. So this mechanism, if we follow, that is followed by these two drug, antidepressant drug, and you can also see their structure is given. So iproniazid, that is having a pyridine ring, and in case of phenelzine, we have benzene ring, then hydrocarbon chain, and finally NH2. So this side you can find some similarity with molecule hydrazine, which is NH2NH2. Okay. So you can also see it is as if a derivative of hydrazine. Fine. So these two is that is the role of these two drugs based on this mechanism. Fine. Now the second category, they are actually derivative of barbituric acid. What is barbituric acid? This is the structure of barbituric acid. Fine. Now keeping this basic structure, we can have different derivatives. So if you look at these two structure, that is luminal and seconal, the basic barbituric structure is there, but some extra groups as substituents are present. So that is why we are calling it derivative of barbituric acid. So these derivative, different types of derivatives, here you can see only 2 examples. But if the basic structure is there is resemblance with barbituric acid, you can call them derivative of barbituric acid, or in short, barbiturates. They are actually hypnotic. Fine. Now examples are, though here you can see different names, only the structure of luminal and seconal is given, and veronal, amital, nembutal. So all these are under this particular class, which is derivative of barbituric acid or barbiturate, and they are actually hypnotic. Some tranquilizers are non-hypnotic. That means they will not induce any sleep when we are consuming it. Example under this non-hypnotic category, chlordiazepoxide and meprobamate. They are mild tranquilizer that can treat mild anxiety and tension. But obviously, if it is not mild, we have to use some other drugs. There is another name, equanil, which is used in controlling depression and hypertension. So under this category, the names that are given here, the structure of this meprobamate, which is having another name. Here you can see both sides there is OCONH2NH2, and we have methyl group and propyl group. You can find similarity with the structure of equanil. Basic structure same, only these 2 substituents, now both the substituents are methyl. Fine. So equanil and meprobamate, these 2 are having some similarity. And this chlordiazepoxide, you can see there is a benzene ring which is attached with a heterocycle where 2 nitrogen atoms are present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is a 7-member ring which is fused with benzene ring. And similarly, diazepam or valium, these are also have basic structure is same as this one, librium or chlordiazepoxide. And then we have another name which is serotonin. Some other tranquilizers are Valium and serotonin. That is these 2. Okay. So serotonin, there is indole structure present. So this is the heterocycle which is known as indole, but we have these 2 substituents. Fine. So all these are examples of tranquilizer, different types of tranquilizers. The class of drug to which chlordiazepoxide with below structure belongs is. So the structure of the drug, it is given. So we have just seen its use. It is not antacid, it is not antibiotic, though antibiotic we are still not, we have discussed it. It is not analgesic, but it is tranquilizer, right? So this should be the correct option, option 2. Which of the following compounds is not an antacid? Cimetidine, ranitidine, aluminium hydroxide. All these 3 are basically antacid. This is also antacid, though it is a very basic antacid. Nowadays it is not used. These 2 are the modern version, that is better drug. But all these 3 are antacid. That is, it helps to reduce the excess acid secretion in stomach. But phenelzine is completely different. Remember where we have seen phenelzine structure? We have seen it here, this one, and it is under tranquilizer. So obviously this is not antacid. So the last option, that should be the correct option, option D. The correct statement about A, B, C and D. Here we have total 4 structures given, right? So option 1, 2, 3, 4 different statements are there in both, that is in all the options. More than 2 drug molecules are mentioned simultaneously, right? So what is A, B, C, D? If we know their names, it will help us to answer this question. So morphine, it is basically A. This is morphine, the first structure, right? Now morphine, heroin, they are under same category. Remember, only difference OH, but now one of the OH is OMe. So this is actually heroin. So this is actually D. Then serotonin, which is C, and Valium, which is B. Now these two, they are under analgesic, right? Now see the options one by one. And serotonin, that is the structure C, that is under tranquilizer, not analgesic. That is only two types are given. If you look at the options properly, only tranquilizer and analgesic. So the first option, third option, fourth option, all these are related to tranquilizer. Option 2 is related to analgesic. So option 1, it is saying that B, C, D are tranquilizer. Okay, so it is true that C, B, these two tranquilizer, but A and D, they are not tranquilizer, right? They are actually under analgesic. So that is why it is not, it is partially maybe correct, but it is not completely correct. So we cannot choose it. Then option 2 saying ABC narcotic analgesic. Now AB is fine. Sorry, not B. A is narcotic analgesic, which is morphine, but B and C are not. So this is also not completely correct. Not correct option. Option 3, B and C, they are tranquilizer. Now this is correct. That is serotonin and Valium. These two are under tranquilizer, and that is why this should be the correct option, option 3. And if you look at option 4, it is saying A and D tranquilizer, but A and D both are under analgesic. Fine. So that is why correct option will be third one. After tranquilizer, number 5 is antimicrobials. Now antimicrobials, they are in general, if we say, they used to cure disease caused by microbes or microorganisms such as bacteria, virus, fungi, or other pathogens. So microorganism, it is a general term that we use, and under this you can say all these are present simultaneously, that is bacteria, virus, fungi, other pathogens, etc. Now on, that is depending on their role, whether they are interacting with bacteria, whether it is interacting completely destroying it or not, depending on all these factors, there may be 3 types. So these 3 types are antibiotic, antiseptic, and disinfectants. Fine, all these 3 are under antimicrobials. One by one we will see antibiotics. Now they can be classified in 2 classes. One is bactericidal, another one is bacteriostatic. Now cidal, ending with cidal, it means it kills completely the bacteria. But when it is static, it is actually not killing completely. It is inhibiting the growth of bacteria. Try to understand the difference. And depending on whether it will directly kill or inhibit the growth, here we have some examples. So under bactericidal, we have penicillin, ofloxacin, etc. Bacteriostatic, we have all these names. Fine. Now, the full range of microorganisms attacked by an antibiotic, that is known as spectrum. That means what are the different variety on which it can attack these type of antibiotics. Depending on that, we can have 3 types of spectrum. That is narrow spectrum, broad spectrum, and limited spectrum. Now, when it is broad spectrum, that means they can kill or inhibit a very wide range of bacteria. 2 types of bacteria, gram positive, gram negative. So they can interact or kill, inhibit or kill both these types. That is why it is a broad spectrum. But if it is narrow spectrum, that means they will be effective either gram positive or gram negative bacteria. Okay. And if it is limited, now it is, that is even narrower than the narrow spectrum. That means they are specific only for a single organism or disease. Fine. That means under gram positive, if there are different types of bacteria, then these under this different variety of gram positive or negative, only the specific type will be inhibited by them. That is why 3 types of spectrum possible. Now some examples we will see. Some are under broad and some are under narrow spectrum. Penicillin G, it is having narrow spectrum. It is effective only against gram-positive bacteria, and this is the structure of penicillin G. So in penicillin G, this part if you see, there is a 4-member, there is carbonyl group and nitrogen, and with this 4-member there is a 5-member ring having sulfur atom. Now this is, if this is the basic structure of penicillin G, the next 2 names that you are seeing, they are actually derivative of penicillin G. So they are synthetic modification of penicillin which are now broad spectrum. So original penicillin G, it is narrow spectrum, but when it is ampicillin or amoxicillin, now if you look at the structure of ampicillin and amoxicillin, you focus on this part, there is actually no such change, right? But if you look at the other parts, there is difference in the substituents. So basic structure, you will not find any difference. So they are synthetic modification of penicillin, and this synthetic modification, after this modification, now their spectrum is no longer narrow, now it is broad. Next example, chloramphenicol. It is again a broad spectrum antibiotic which is rapidly absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract, and that is the reason it can be given orally when there is typhoid, dysentery, acute fever, certain form of urinary infection, meningitis and pneumonia. Fine. Then we have vancomycin, ofloxacin. They are again broad spectrum. Then tetracycline, it is also broad spectrum. And the next example, decidazirin, it is supposed to be toxic towards certain strain of cancer cell. So towards certain strain of cancer cell means it is again narrow spectrum. Fine. So here we have structure of ofloxacin, decidazirin, it is the last name, and chloramphenicol, the third point. You can see these are the structures. Fine. Now one name is not mentioned here, but if you look at the structure, there is presence of arsenic double bond. So this is important to know because it is the first example of this antibiotic, salvarsan or arsephenamide, which is the name is originated from arsenic. Though it is the first discovered, so that is why it is important, but actually because of presence of arsenic, it is toxic. So there is the modern version, that is the modified form of this particular drug, that is also present, where instead of arsenic bond, you will find NN double bond. So here also same type of bonding, but not arsenic. So arsenic is not present. So it is a better version of salvarsan, which is having the name frontosine. Okay. So this molecule, it works better because there is no presence of arsenic, which is maybe the reason of toxicity. But this is not the active ingredient, because when it is present inside the body in vivo, what happens? This linkage is broken. So from the left hand side, you will find this triaminobenzene, and from the right hand side, you will find benzene ring, one side SO2NH2, another side NH2. Okay, so this sulfanilamide, that is the actual active agent which is responsible for antibiotic activity. Fine. So in vivo, this NN double bond will be broken and the active ingredient will be sulfanilamide. There is another important under this, if you look at this structure, you will find some similarity with sulfanilamide. Now the name is sulfapyridine. So try to understand the difference. NH2 group, benzene ring, then SO2NH2. But now as if one of the hydrogen of NH2 is replaced by pyridine ring. That is the difference. So this is the most modified and modern version, which is obviously better than sulfanilamide and obviously from salvarsan. Okay. So here it is pyridine derivative of sulfanilamide. Okay. So that all these are examples of antibiotic. This is a MCQ question, that is more than one option may be correct, but not necessary. It may not be so. Which of the following statements are incorrect about penicillin? So penicillin we have just discussed. It is antibacterial fungus. Then it is mentioned it has bacteriostatic effect. But remember, bactericidal, bacteriostatic. Under bactericidal is basically the example of penicillin falls. So it cannot be bacteriostatic. This is not correct option. And we have to find incorrect option. So this is incorrect. I'm writing I here. This is incorrect. Then ampicillin is its synthetic modification. This is obviously true. Remember, keeping basic structure same, there is some difference. So this is as if derivative of penicillin. So this statement is also correct, but we have to find incorrect. Then D, it is broad spectrum antibiotic, but actually it is narrow spectrum, not broad. So this is also incorrect. So both these options should be, we have to choose. Okay. So the first option is correct, antibacterial fungus. Then ampicillin is its synthetic modification. These two are correct. B and D not correct. So that is why these two are correct option. Which of the following is not a broad spectrum antibiotic? So all these are that is examples that are given. You have to choose broad spectrum antibiotic. Now penicillin G, is it broad spectrum? No, it is not broad spectrum, that we have just seen in the previous problem. So we have to find the antibiotic which is not broad spectrum. So that is why this should be the correct option. Okay. And ampicillin is basically narrow spectrum. Broad spectrum. But we have to find not a broad spectrum. So that is why ampicillin cannot be correct. Fine. So under antimicrobial, the first category antibiotic that we have seen now, the second is antiseptic. Now, what is the difference with antibiotic that we have to understand? These are chemical substances which prevent the growth of microorganisms or may even kill them when applying to living tissue like skin. So now we can apply it on living tissue that you have not seen in case of antibiotic. That is the difference. They are generally applied on the wounds, cut, ulcer, diseased skin surface in the form of cream. So here we have different types of antiseptics. Example, furacin used to prevent and treat infection of burn wounds. Soframycin, treating infected cut wounds, and if the burn is minor, it is fine. And Savlon, it is very common, widely used antiseptic. It is basically solution of this chlorhexidine gluconate in a particular solvent. Fine. So which that is chemical compound is actually present in Savlon? This is the name, chlorhexidine gluconate. Bithionol, added to soaps to reduce the odor from the skin produced by bacterial decomposition of organic matter on skin. Tincture of iodine, it is also applied on wounds, but what it is actually, it is 2 to 3% solution of iodine in alcohol and water. So the amount of iodine is very low, to only 2 to 3%. So you can get question regarding tincture of iodine, that what is its actual composition. So that is why it is important to know. What is the percentage of iodine? Iodoform, we all know iodoform reaction. So iodoform is basically CHI3, yellow PPT formed, remember, in iodoform reaction. So it is also used as an antiseptic for wounds. Boric acid, dilute aqueous solution of this acid, is weak antiseptic for eyes only. And Dettol, it is a mixture of two compounds, chlorxylenol and terpineol, in a suitable solvent. Now its use, we all know it, and we have also used it. Now let's see the structure. So in Dettol, these two compounds are present. So the first one is benzene D. Here we have methyl substituent, chlorine substituent OH, and the next one, it is not benzene D, only one double bond is there, but it is also 6-member ring. Methyl substituent, OH substituents are present. Next we have bithionol structure, where sulfur, through sulfur linkage, two similar ring, that is having same type of groups. These two rings are connected through sulfur linkage. Fine. Now, after this, the third one after antiseptic is disinfectant. They are applied to inanimate objects such as floor, drainage system, instrument, toilet, but not on living tissue. That is also difference with antiseptic, because in antiseptic you can apply it directly on living tissue or wounds, burn area, but not this one. It is only for inanimate objects. Now, same substance can also be antiseptic depending on as well as disinfectant, depending on what type of concentration you are using. Depending on that, you can use them directly on wound, cuts like this, or inanimate objects. So, for example, if we have phenol solution which is 0.2%, very dilute, then it can be antiseptic. But if it is 1%, that is higher than 0.2, now it will be disinfectant. The second example, chlorine, when the concentration is 0.2 to 0.4 parts per million ppm in aqueous solution, and SO2 in very low concentration, they will be disinfectant. Fine. So these are some examples. The sixth type, antifertility. These are the chemical substances that is used to control pregnancy, and they are also called with another name, which is oral contraceptive. Now, if we see their structures, they belong to the class of natural product, which is steroid. It is having a very large structure, and birth control pills essentially contain a mixture of these two hormones. But remember, they are synthetic estrogen or progesterone. So if you consider actual estrogen or progesterone, that is original, and if you do some synthetic modification, then we are getting some derivative of it. And these pills, they basically contain mixture of the synthetic version of these two hormones. So that is why it is derivative of estrogen or progesterone. Progesterone, if you consider, its role is to suppress ovulation process. Now, when it is synthetic progesterone, now they are actually more potent than progesterone. So that is the reason why we are making some modification. So this is the example norethindrone, which is basically synthetic progesterone derivative, that is the most widely used antifertility drug under this category. Then the another hormone, estrogen, if you consider its derivative, that estrogen derivative is widely used in combination with progesterone derivative, and its name is ethinyl estradiol, or it is most commonly known as novestrol. So this is derivative of progesterone, norethindrone, and the second one is novestrol. So here also you can find some basic similarity in the structure. So when I'm saying similarity, see here we have total three 6-membered rings and one 5-membered rings fused together. Here also 3 6-membered ring, one 5-membered ring fused together. But there is difference in substituent, and also this ring is being aromatic. This one is not aromatic. So these are some difference, but it is belonging to the class of steroid. Fine. So norethindrone, derivative of progesterone, and ethinyl estradiol or novestrol, derivative of estrogen. Now, based on novestrol, we have a question here. The antifertility drug novestrol can react with the first option, bromine water, then zinc chloride HCl, then FeCl3. Three different types of reagents are mentioned in option 1. In option 2, again 3 types of reagent: alcoholic HCl, NaOCl, ZnCl2 HCl. Now, these two are common in both option and 1, other two are not common. Then option 3, now again bromine water, which is present in option 1 also. This is also present in option 1. NaOCl, this is present in option 2 also. And then again, that is there are total basically 5 reagents: bromine water, zinc chloride HCl mixture, FeCl3, alcoholic HCl, hydrocyanic acid, NaOCl. So these are the 5 reagents total present, and different permutation combinations are there in option 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, we have to, if we want to answer it properly, we have to know the structure of novesterol, because what type of groups are actually present in novesterol, if we know that fact properly, then only we can understand what type of reagent will actually can react with novesterol. Fine, because when it is bromine water, basically it reacts with unsaturation if there is any CC double bond or triple. When it is zinc chloride HCl, it is Lucas reagent which reacts with alcohol. When it is FeCl3, ferrichloride, it reacts with phenolic OH, not just any OH, phenolic OH. Then it is alcoholic HCl, it reacts with it, that is Cn minus, it can act as nucleophile, it can react with carbonyl. NaOCl, it is an oxidizing agent. So different roles of these 5 reagents are there. Now if you look at the structure, here you can find what type of groups. Carefully look at that. Here we have phenolic OH, right? Here we have unsaturation because CC triple bond is present. We also have alcohol group, right? Now, if we consider these 3 groups, bromine water can be used which will react with unsaturation, that is CC triple bond. ZnCl2HCl, which is Lucas reagent, it can react with the alcohol group, and FeCl3, it will react with phenol. So these 3 reagents, they can react with novesterol because of presence of phenolic OH, alcoholic OH, and unsaturation, CC triple bond. But the other 2 reagents, alcoholic HCl and NaOCl, they cannot react. NaOCl, it is actually oxidizing agent, but here direct application of this type of oxidizing agent is not possible. Alcoholic HCl, where Cn minus can act as nucleophile, but that can attack only if there is any carbonyl group, but we do not have any carbonyl group, so that is why this is not correct. So considering these 3 reagent which is present in option 1. Antipyretic. Now antipyretic, mainly paracetamol and aspirin, these 2 we have already seen in case of other category. Remember, in case of analgesic also, we have seen examples of these 2. Now, when we are discussing it under antipyretic, because they can have both these roles, dual role, now it is under antipyretic. These drugs are used for reducing body temperature when there is high fever. Paracetamol, which is 4-hydroxyacetanilide. Acetanilide is NaCO-CH3 group attached to benzene ring, but we also have OH group at 4 position, so that is it is 4-hydroxyacetanilide. Then aspirin, phenacetin, then analgin or novalgin. Both are actually same structure, but different names are there. And metamizole, which is the common name used for this type of structure. So it is important to know the alternative names, because in question which name will be given, that we do not know, right? So these are the common examples of antipyretics, and out of this, paracetamol is most common. You can also call the name of paracetamol as if it is 4-acetamidophenol. So if you focus on this part, it is phenol, and as if at 4 position of phenol there is acetamido group, NaCO-CH3, or you can also call it 4-hydroxyacetanilide, as if now you are considering this part as parent part, and there is a OH group at 4 position. So both the names are actually fine. Novalgin or analgin or metamizole, this is the structure. Now in novalgin, if you focus on this part, in this particular heterocycle, we have NN 2 nitrogen atoms side by side. Okay, so where if you have any 5-membered heterocycle, 2 nitrogen atom at 1 and 2 position, they are actually known as pyrazole. When they are at 1 and 3 position, it is imidazole. But when they are present in 1 and 2 position, it is pyrazole heterocycle. Then phenacetin, this one, which is having some similarity with the structure paracetamol. Just see, if you convert this OH group to OCH2CH3 group, then you will get phenacetin. So paracetamol, phenacetin, there is similarity, and nabumeton, where we have naphthalene ring, OMe group, CH2CH2, COCH. So these are the examples of antipyretic. Examples of antipyretics are, so this question may be multiple correct choice, that is more than one option may be correct. So here we have uh, here we have 4 names: paracetamol, morphine, barbituric acid, and para-aminophenol. Now antipyretics, what are the examples that we have seen? Paracetamol is obviously there, so it should be correct option. But is there any other correct option? Because it is MCQ, more than one question may be correct, so that we have to check. So paracetamol option A, it is obviously true. Now morphine, it is not under antipyretic, right? We have seen its use in another category, where it is, that is basically analgesic, right? Then we have also seen barbituric acid derivative. Based on the structure of barbituric acid, there may be different structures as derivative of barbituric acid, and in short they are called barbiturate. Fine. So they are also not under antipyretic. And if you consider, so B and C will not be correct. And if you focus on this one, it is actually para-aminophenol. Now this is the structure of phenol, and para-amino means NH2 group is there. But is it antipyretic? Remember, if you look at the structure of paracetamol, it is phenol, and then there is presence of NHCOCH3, right? Just see, this is the structure of paracetamol, NHCOCH3, OH group at 1 and 4 position, right? But in this case, if we see para-aminophenol, this is NH2 group, right? That means it is not NaCO-CH3. So we cannot say it is paracetamol. That is, it is not direct structure of paracetamol. It is para-aminophenol. But this is not the drug. Actual drug is when this NH2 group is NaCO-CH3. So though it is MCQ question, that is more than one option may be correct, but that's not necessary. It may be correct, it may not be so. So the last one, though it has similarity with the structure of paracetamol, but it is not paracetamol structure, and it is not having any similarity with any other antipyretic. So that is why B, C, D, all these 3 will not be correct. Only A will be correct. Fine. Analgin. Analgin is a derivative of phenol, benzoic acid, pyrazole, PDD. If we see, that is individually, if we consider their structure, phenol is OH group attached to benzene ring. Then benzoic acid is CO2H group, benzene ring. Pyrazole is, as I have said, heterocycle, where 2 nitrogen atoms they are present side by side. So this is actually the structure of pyrazole, heterocycle. And pyridine is like this. Now, which moiety is actually present in analgin? Remember, in the previous we have seen in this slide, analgin and novalgin both are actually same. So in novalgin, if you focus on this, another ring is also there, which is benzene. But the second ring is containing 2 nitrogen. Though there is also carbonyl, but it is having maximum similarity with pyrazole, right? So that is why the answer of this question, it should be option 3. Though it is not directly pyrazole, it is a derivative of pyrazole. There is also C double bond O, but you cannot find any similarity with pyridine, benzoic acid, or phenol. It has similarity only with pyrazole. So that is why based on this heterocyclic structure, correct answer should be option C. So all the 7 categories, starting from antacid, analgesic, tranquilizer, up to antipyretic. All these we have seen with along with the problems and examples, and that is all about drug. So total 3 fields we will discuss. The first field is done. Next we will see different chemical compounds in food that we use. Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you for listening.